First of all, I think it's foundational. I think if we really aspire, whether you're a Democrat, a Republican, a Libertarian, Independent, if you really aspire to having a system that includes more voices, elevates those with less money and affords a level playing field with those with more, no matter your politics, we have to address it. And that means addressing the corrupting influence of money in politics. That's where campaign finance reform stems from. We have to recognize that we have a political industrial complex that consumes billions of dollars every cycle. I think it was $14 billion in 2020.
We've been debating this going back well before what was called Shays-Meehan and what was called Kennedy-McCain. So the issue became there's too much money in politics. There's too much. There are too many ads. There's too many people involved. There's all these organizations. And so they tried to come up with a process. Well, that process that they were attempting to change essentially dealt with PACs. And PACs are these legal opportunities under the Federal Election Commission whereby people who gather together may form associations, and then like-minded people then may give money to those PACs, and those PACs may be allowed to not only give money, but do reporting, run ads, send mail. And the feeling was there was too much money in the bucket.
The question is, how do we reduce the corrupting influence of the money in politics, level the playing field so that great, young, bright Americans who aspire to serve the country can do so without having to jump over the hurdles of raising millions of dollars every time? I would say reducing, capping the contribution amounts is a good starting place. We do so right now. I think it's awfully high. But we should also look at capping the expenditures.
I think that there are too many people that hide behind names that are deceptive. I think they should say, we oppose, and then give their statement. Or at the end where you hear them do their disclaimer. I think that disclaimer somewhere should say, we are people who are opposed to whatever it is, and then give their information.
The FEC, the Federal Election Commission, is designed to provide oversight and accountability to people running for office, to candidates and campaigns, to make sure that people are following the rules. But the fact of the matter is, it's essentially designed right now to be toothless, ineffective, doesn't have the resources, and often, because of its composition, doesn't even reach any conclusions. As a result, you see increasingly campaigns pushing the limits ethically and legally. There's very little accountability, and the FEC should be enhanced. In fact, I've authored an amendment in H.R. 1 to do just that.
You have to register with the FEC, and you have to follow their rules and regulations. The FEC is a very important organization. They monitor weekly, monthly, quarterly results that people bring. In fact, they don't always work because they don't have a majority on their commission to where they can handle things that get tied up or where there's a jump ball. That's why we have votes. Well, in fact, they should. These people that give money, a PAC is required to do that, but there are certain special entity PACs where people can give money and you don't know who's behind it. Of course, everyone should be registered, and the law allowed them to hide.
Some argue actually that it's not so much about limiting, capping the amount that someone can contribute to a campaign. The key is to ensure that it's transparent. Look, I'm the only member of Congress, the only one, if you can imagine this, that accepts no PAC money of any kind, no lobbyist money, no federal lobbyist money of any kind. I don't accept any member money. And I also am one of the very few members of Congress in the House or Senate that doesn't have a leadership PAC, which is essentially a slush fund to bestow money on other candidates who then are reminded of that when it's time for leadership elections. This internal money game is just as despicable as the external game. Citizens United, which really opened the floodgates. We knew it would happen. It did. It's even worse than we imagined. By the way, Democrats, I would argue, are even disproportionately benefiting from it. I still think it's terribly, terribly wrong. Corporations have the right to advocate, to lobby, to even share resources.
We are not into having corporations to use their money that came from shareholders or their resources. It should, in my opinion, include employees. And employees, I've been a part of that. I worked for a small company called AT&T. And during that period of time, I made contributions and solicited contributions to have what we consider to be effective and powerful ways to move forward legislation that would help all consumers.
So H.R. 1 is the most comprehensive electoral reform bill in our generation, arguably one of the most important bills that Congress can be considering, especially in light of what happened in 2020, especially in light of the fact that people have lost faith, sadly, many on both sides of the aisle in our elections. It cleans them up. It increases transparency. It automatically registers American voters, as I think we should be doing anyway. It actually provides a public financing system, the same system that Ronald Reagan used to win the presidency back in the 1980s. And the rationale is it levels the playing field.
It eliminates state government control over elections. It will all be run out of Washington. The biggest part is it funds federal campaigns, which means everybody running for Congress. It takes away federalism. It takes away states' rights, things that they have held for all 244 years. It takes away their ability to control. It will all be run by one party out of Washington, D.C.